In this video, we're going to look back at the coolest watches of 2024, starting with the most affordable and ending with the most disgustingly expensive. There are watches from bargain basement AliExpress brands right up to the most exclusive Swiss brands, and these are not recommendations or endorsements, simply watches I thought were cool last year. This is The Whole Cut, my name is Louis, let's get straight into it. Let's start with a watch that some enthusiasts will scoff at. It's the Addiesdive AD2066. The branding is terrible, it's an homage of sorts, it's sold on AliExpress and dropshipped from China, and yet it is an absolute budget banger. If you have a strict budget of $60 and want a beautiful everyday watch that will handle any situation, forget Casio, forget Seiko, buy this watch. It looks like a cross between a Rolex Oyster Perpetual and a Longines Conquest. Two absolute staples of the last 70 or 80 years of watchmaking. Not only does it look amazing with that awesome sunray dial, but it also feels really well made, though not perfect. The VH31 quartz movement is accurate, but with a slightly more sophisticated sweep, ticking 4 times per second. This watch isn't just good for the money, it is legitimately good. Beaufort is a micro brand from New Zealand. Not exactly a country known as a watchmaking hotbed, but nobody told Beaufort. The Fiordland GMT uses the Miyota 9075 automatic movement, a true GMT movement that has helped to bring the mechanical GMT complication to the masses. In terms of styling, the Fiordland GMT has an inner bezel reminiscent of the Universal Genève pole router, with a textured crosshair dial and a brushed 24-hour bezel. It comes on a tropical style rubber strap as standard, but you can upgrade to stainless steel, flat link or beads of rice style bracelets for a bit of extra money. At 39mm in diameter, with a lug-to-lug measurement of 47mm, it's going to fit almost any wrist, and starting at $589 it's not badly priced. The Bulova Super Seville is yet another 70s revival integrated bracelet sports watch. The Super Seville model line has been around for decades, usually reserved for Bulova's Rolex Datejust and Day-Date homages. The new Super Seville retains the iconic fluted bezel, but otherwise doesn't contain much Rolex DNA. Instead, it has a rounded square TV dial in the style of watches like the Mido Multifort. It also features Bulova's high accuracy quartz precisionist movement, which is pretty cool. The Bulova Complecto collab with the real Tiger's Eye dial is probably my favourite version of this watch, though it is really quite pricey compared to the standard model at $1,295 compared to $695. Is it worth the extra money? That's for you to decide, but it is a real stunner. When I first saw the Benjamin James Scarifor, I thought, yawn, another integrated bracelet watch. But last November I attended Watch Pro Salon 2024 in London and saw this watch in the flesh and was blown away by just how nice it is in person. It has classic styling and vintage sizing and really strikes me as a watch that has had quite a bit of thought and effort put into it. At the same show I also saw the Main Manhattan, Nevada Gwenchen F77 and Venezianico Arsenale, which are all great sporty watches with integrated bracelets, and they are great, but I thought the Benjamin James was better on the wrist than all of them. The Scarifor Classic is available with a manual wind Solita movement or a Ronda quartz, whereas the automatic has a Miyota 9039. Unfortunately, you will have to join a wait list, but I'm sure it'll be worth the wait. I had never heard of this watch brand until I visited the Time and Tide store just off Oxford Street in London and then Watch Pro Salon 2024. The popularity of vintage dress watches from the likes of Cartier and Piaget has spiked in recent years, and this is starting to filter down to new dress watches, so when I saw this collection in the Time and Tide store I was mesmerised. The sunray dials are nice, but for me it's the stone dial models that really sparkle. There's a selection of dial options in both stainless steel and PVD gold. I think the lapis style variant is my favourite. The best thing is these watches don't cost thousands, only a few $100s. I don't think I would actually buy one of the current collection. The PVD gold version with a red Jasper dial well, then you would be talking. Definitely a watch brand to watch in 2025. This next watch is from an also-ran Swiss watch brand. That brand is Raymond Weil. In 2023, the brand released the vintage-inspired sexta-dialed Millésime, which won the top prize for best watch under 2,000 Swiss francs at the Backpatting GBHG Awards 2023. It finally put the brand back on the map as a serious Swiss watch brand. But the watch was sized up for the modern watch market with a case size of 39mm. However, the brand obviously listened to feedback and returned to the market with a bunch of new 35mm model variants. You might be forgiven for thinking these watches are a re-edition of watches from the brand's back catalogue, but the brand was only founded in 1976, by which time watches in this style had obviously fallen out of favour. But what the brand lacks in heritage, it makes up for with execution, as these are some of the best looking dress watches you can find under $2,000. I have to admit, my favourite is the gaudy rose gold with the burgundy dial. It might lack the class of some of the more understated modern variants. It certainly catches the eye though, if that's what you're hoping to achieve. This watch is a bit pricey, but looks absolutely marvellous. It's the limited edition Miami Vice Hessograph by Italian brand HTD. The pink dial is an acquired taste for sure, especially with outdated notions of pink being girly or gay. It's ludicrous, but some people do still believe that sort of thing. I think it looks gorgeous though. It has the classic tri-compax layout, but no timing bezel, which makes it a little bit more unusual. It's limited to 150 pieces online. I'll whisper it because I don't want to offend anyone, but I actually quite like limited editions. Sometimes it means the watch is more expensive or a pain in the ass to find, but it also means you're less likely to see it on someone else's wrist. After all, who wants to wear the same watch as everyone else, except Tudor and Rolex fanboys of course. The Miami Vice is also way cooler than the overhyped pink Tudor Black Bay Chrono. Sorry, another low blow for the Tudor fanboys. This next watch is from a micro brand founded by Canadian musician Jesse Brian Marchand, aka JBM. No, that name doesn't really mean anything to me either, sorry, but he does seem to have a keen eye for watch design. After the Rolex-esque Model No. 1 GMT last year, Lorca is back with the Model No. 2 chronograph, a similarly vintage Rolex-inspired tri-compax chronograph. The Model No. 2 is a clear step up in class from the Model No. 1. The goofy looking bezel is gone, replaced by a much nicer Rolex Thunderbird style 12-hour bezel, and at 37mm in diameter, it has dimensions to match its vintage aesthetic. It has the classic tri-compax layout and door-freeing hands, which help to lend a slightly dressier vibe. It is powered by the manually wound Sellita SW510M movement with an accuracy rating of plus or minus 5 seconds per day and a power reserve of 63 hours. The bracelet is a sort of beads of rice style. I don't think it looks great, but it's certainly its own thing. There are a choice of 3 dial colours, black, silver and my favourite, gold and grey, which gives off a brownish hue in certain lights. Brown is an amazing colour and massively underrated and underused in modern watches in my opinion. The Model No. 2 chronograph is pretty expensive for a micro brand watch at $2,650. It's up to you to decide if it's worth that kind of money. The first batch of watches are due to be delivered in May 2025, after which it will become part of Lorca's permanent collection. This next watch is from a legendary Swiss brand, Zenith. It's the Defy Revival 83648. The 83648 is one of the wackiest dive watches you are ever likely to see, with its outrageous angular case and black dial with eye-catching orange bezel and accents. It's a reproduction of the very first Defy dive watch, and as such at 37mm in diameter, it is relatively small by modern standards, but it's crazy thick at 15.5mm, giving it a real presence. The case thickness helps to provide a water resistance rating of 600 meters, making this a bona fide dive watch. It contains the Elite 670 automatic movement. The only real downside is the price. At $7,700, it isn't cheap at all, definitely a grail type watch. I normally wouldn't feature two watches from the same brand, but this Hodinkee Zenith collab is a real stunner. Take a dump on Hodinkee all you want, but this collab is an absolute home run. Hodinkee may well have become the punch bag of the watch press in the last few years, but it does do some amazing collaborations. This one is a limited edition of 200 pieces, which means it's harder to get, and has a premium price tag. It costs an eye-watering $13,500 US. Wow. But just look at it, it looks absolutely incredible. It's a tribute to a prototype El Primero from 1970, with a triple calendar moon phase module on top of the A386 automatic movement. It's only 38mm in diameter, which is great, but like most modern watches, it's a bit chunky, coming in at 14mm thick. Not so great. The party piece, however, are those meteorite subdials, which combined with the monochrome dial make for a stunningly beautiful watch. If I had money to burn, I would surely buy one. You might think I'm crazy for including a watch that is so expensive and so exclusive that most people will never see one, never mind own one or wear one. But the Berneron Mirage Sienna is such an incredible looking watch, it had to make the list. There has been a trend to smaller, dressier watches in the last few years, and this year that extended to asymmetric watches. You might be forgiven for thinking this is some sort of Cartier crash rip-off, and it sort of is, but the execution here is fantastic. The case is gold, the dial is gold, and most of the movement is made from gold as well. At 38mm, it's a bit more modern sized for a dress watch, a bit too large for my taste, but Berneron also makes some 34mm models, although I don't think they're quite as attractive. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Did I miss one of your favourites? That's all I've got time for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.